Marcus Wolford from wolfordwellness.com. This video is actually going to be a summary of the article I wrote titled How to Completely Cure GERD and Heartburn. GERD stands for gastroesophageal reflux disease, which is America's #1 digestive disorder. GERD actually leads to heartburn, and an estimated 15 million people experience heartburn every single day. You've probably heard of some of the most common medications: Prilosec, Nexium, Tums, Pepto-Bismol. Now, particularly the prescription medications are the second highest selling drugs on the market at over $13 billion every single year. Now, is this even a big deal? After all, it's just some indigestion, right? It's actually more than indigestion, because that's just a symptom. Acid is literally coming up and burning the unprotected tissue of our esophagus. This can lead to ulcerations, scarring, esophageal cancer, and a whole host of digestive disorders, which can then lead to more diseases. This is a very big deal. And remember, it's America's #1 digestive disorder. Guess what? It's not that hard to solve. We've just got to get educated. Digestion actually begins as soon as we put food in our mouth. We start chewing the food, which breaks it down, and for the most part it's still intact, as it then travels down a 10-inch long tube called the esophagus. It reaches a small muscle called the lower esophageal sphincter, the LES. Sphincter is another word for valve, and this valve is a one-way valve. Its job is to let food through and keep food from coming up. The food then reaches the stomach. The stomach is stage 1 of digestion. Now let me ask you a question. How much of the food you eat is sterile? Answer: absolutely none. All the food we eat contains harmful bacteria and toxins. So this is why our stomach actually secretes hydrochloric acid. Its job is to not only break the food down even more, but it's to actually sterilize the food, killing this harmful bacteria. So at this point, our food is primarily a soupy-like substance called chyme, where it then goes through the second sphincter called the pyloric sphincter. Once it goes through, it reaches stage 2 of digestion, which is the small intestine. This is where most of digestion, actually absorption, happens. It goes through the entirety of the small intestine, through the colon, which is the large intestine, and out the rectum. Okay, so let's look at specifically what GERD and heartburn is and what the current solutions are. GERD again stands for gastroesophageal reflux. So to put it simply, GERD is when the acid in your stomach is going the wrong way through the LES and onto the unprotected tissue of your esophagus. It starts burning that tissue, and this burning sensation is what's called heartburn. Now, the current solution to this is for your doctor to give you either a PPI or an antacid. What these do is decrease or completely eliminate the stomach acid you have. Now, why would you want to do this? The answer might seem obvious. If you have no hydrochloric acid, you've got nothing to burn the tissue on your esophagus. However, this actually presumes that the symptom, which is the burning, is the actual cause of the problem. But this is building a case on a faulty premise. Symptoms do not equal causality. However, this is consistent with what Western medicine typically does, which is to only look at symptoms instead of prevention. So we don't want to just put a Band-Aid on the problem. We want to prevent the acid reflux in the first place. In other words, we don't want to just stop the pain for a little while. We want to figure out why the acid is even going the wrong way. If we can figure that out, we have our solution. We actually know what causes acid reflux. It's built-up pressure in the stomach, which then pushes any amount of stomach acid through the LES onto the unprotected tissue of the esophagus. This is called intra-abdominal pressure, IAP. The question: what causes intra-abdominal pressure? If we can figure that out, we have our solution. The answer is primarily 3 things: low stomach acid, bacteria overgrowth, and partially digestive carbohydrates. By far the most important of those 3 is low stomach acid, because it can not only cause these, it can actually increase them if they're already present in the body. So I'm going to explain 2 of the 3 primary functions of stomach acid. You can read about the third in my article. 1. Stomach acid's regulation of our stomach's pH. As you remember, the acid in our stomach kills the bacteria as it comes in on the food. It does this by decreasing the pH optimally to about 2. So if we have low stomach acid, the pH goes up and bacteria live longer. Low stomach acid equals bacteria overgrowth. 2. The acid's regulation of the pancreatic digestive enzymes. Our acid signals the pancreas to start making digestive enzymes. This is called pancreatic juice. We make about 2 cups of this juice every day. This then gets delivered to stage 2 of digestion, which is the small intestine, where it then breaks down our food so we can actually absorb it. So if we have low stomach acid, we have decreased production of digestive enzymes, and that gives us partially digested carbohydrates. So I'm going to explain acid reflux by summarizing those 2 points. Low stomach acid gives us partially digested carbohydrates and bacteria overgrowth. Can you guess what bacteria's favorite fuel source is? Carbohydrates. So low stomach acid gives us bacteria overgrowth and partially digested carbs. This is like a paradise for bacteria because they then just feed on these carbs. This bacteria fermentation then gives us hydrogen gas. Actually, the only source of hydrogen gas in the human body is bacteria fermentation. So I'm going to explain what causes GERD and heartburn. It's literally the stomach farting, which is the creation of hydrogen gas from bacteria fermentation, which then creates intra-abdominal pressure, forcing acid through the LES onto the esophagus. The acid then starts burning the esophageal tissue, which creates heartburn. Now you know what causes GERD and heartburn. To cure GERD and heartburn, it's first vitally important that you stop taking PPIs and antacids, because if you are, you're actually self-inflicting an out-of-whack digestive system by lowering the acid in your stomach. Remember that GERD and heartburn are just 2 symptoms. If you have low stomach acid and bacteria overgrowth, you're at risk for a ton of other problems. Not only are you not fully digesting carbohydrates, but your breakdown of proteins, fats, vitamins, and minerals is also inhibited. This can cause peptic ulcers, micronutrient deficiencies, inflammation, autoimmune diseases, and even irritable bowel syndrome. So the current prescription of PPIs and antacids for most people is not only not solving the problem, it's very harmful because we actually need the acid in our stomach. Well, here it is. The best way to cure GERD and heartburn is actually to take away the fuel source of bacteria, carbohydrates. The recommendation is to go on a low carbohydrate diet, specifically eliminating long-chain polysaccharides and disaccharides, such as grains, legumes, and starchy vegetables. Well, there you have it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please check me out on wolfordwellness.com and read the article where I go much more in depth in this topic. I also have links to books I recommend and an article series by Chris Kresser, which I heavily relied on to write my article. Feel free to ask me questions on the website or go to my Facebook page at facebook.com/wolfordwellness. The links are below.